And welcome back to Sunday Square Off. Over the last several weeks, we've brought you the latest news on Arizona's looming water crisis and our growing climate challenges. Today, there's more news to report. This week, the Phoenix City Council votes on whether to boost residents' water rates. That would pay for equipment to get stored water out of the ground and to Phoenix homes and businesses. That would all make up for the potential loss of a major water source at Lake Mead. In the meantime, there's progress on an agreement that would help the entire state deal with the anticipated water shortage at Lake Mead. Joining us this morning to help us understand why that deal is so important, who the key players are, and what the next big step is, Joanna Allhands, columnist at the Arizona Republic and a journalist who's been following the story more closely, I think, than anybody in the state. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to warn you, we're going to attempt something that I don't think has ever been done. We're going to try to explain this water deal and why it matters to you on this show. I believe it's really important to do that. So here we go. You ready?
Yes.
Flying Walendas, watch out. They got nothing on us.
That's right.
So we're talking about negotiations on the so-called drought contingency plan. Why do Arizonans need this plan?
So basically the bottom line is that the Colorado River, which supplies about 40% of our water supply in the state, is not producing the amount of water that we need to fulfill the agreements that we have to have water. So basically, there's not enough water to go around. And the lake levels are dropping and dropping and dropping to the point where we're getting to really scary levels.
And scary levels, Catherine Sorensen, the Phoenix's water director, told me several weeks ago, there's concern Lake Mead could crash within just 8 years. What does crash mean? It
means that water could go so low that we can't use it to generate power, that at some point we could even get so low that we can't even get any water out of the lake. It goes below the pipes. Okay, so that's just potentially 8 years away, a 20% chance, they say. Now, this isn't the first time Arizona's had to negotiate a tough water deal. There's one in 1980 and some others since then. Why is it so hard? Well, the problem is, one, there's not enough water to go around, and we live in the desert. We need water to live in a desert, and everybody has good reasons to use that water. It's not like we're just throwing it up in the air and going, yay, we have so much water. You know, everybody needs that water, and everybody has legitimate claims.
So I want to help folks understand what's at stake in their communities, who the key players are, as a way to help understand what's going on here. So I broke this down as kind of a card game. Several players at the table. Let's start with the strongest hand right now. It appears to belong to the Native American tribes. Why are they in a good position in these negotiations over water?
Well, basically, they're the ones that have the water. They have most of the water that we could use to help other people who would be losing a lot of water in this deal. Okay, the weakest hand, Pinal County. And there's a history here, and it affects developers, it affects farmers in particular, and residents there, so pay attention. What's the history in Pinal County that puts them in a somewhat weaker position today? Well, so basically when a shortage is declared on Lake Mead, which could come as soon as 2020, when that happens, there has always been this idea that the Pinal County farmers were going to lose some water. They were actually supposed to lose all of their water by 2030, but now that the shortage could come as early as 2020, we got a decade of water that we're trying to figure out what are we going to do with. You know, they're losing a ton of water in a very short period of time that they were not ready for.
It's also a fast-growing area. Developers need water. Homes need water. What's the potential impact there?
Yeah, well, so basically what the idea is, in this long-term plan, they're trying to get the farmers using groundwater. Now, of course, that's not sustainable. Groundwater is not an infinite source.
It's water literally in the ground, and they don't necessarily know how much water is there. Is that correct?
Not really, no. We have some ideas, but no, it's an open question as to how much water is there and how long it's going to last.
Okay, Pinal County, strong hand, Native American tribes. Cities like Phoenix and Tucson, they've been planning for this. They're kind of in a decent position right now. They've been banking water. Where do they stand in these negotiations?
Yeah, so I mean, now they will lose water with DCP. I mean, there is provisions in there that would cut what's called the non-Indian ag pool, which is a part of water that cities do use. And a lot of them are using it to store underground, but some do actually use it. I mean, it comes out of your tap. That's the source of water for your tap. Depends on the city. So there is something that they have to lose here. But yeah, a lot of really what they're looking at is long-term, making sure that they have 100-year supplies so, you know, your tap isn't running dry.
And there's some jealousy among the Pinal County crowd because they feel like cities like Phoenix and Tucson are holding back on
Right. I mean, the term has been used, hoarding water, that they're hoarding water. The cities say, no, we're not hoarding water. This is really important for us. We have to have this for, you know, economic development reasons. People need to know that we have enough water to survive, you know, in a desert. But then the farmers say, like, but we need to use this water now. We need it for, like, crops and planting things and not having fallowed fields.
Now, just to be clear, you have some cities that have been doing this, but others have not. Are all cities equal in terms of preparing for a water crisis?
I think, well, if you ask the cities, yes, they're all trying to prepare, but they're all in different situations. There's all different situations of where their water comes from and why and where they put it, and yeah, it's really complicated.
And if I'm a resident of a city in the state of Arizona, what kind of questions should I be asking the mayor, the city manager, the council about the state of our water resource for that city?
Well, a lot of people are like, well, is my tap going to turn off? You know, no, we're not in that situation. And, you know, I hear this a lot from people where they're like, well, you know, if we just rip out the grass, or like, I just see water running down the streets of, you know, Phoenix, or insert your city here, you know, that if we just did that, that would fix the problem. And yes, those are things you should be pressuring your city to say, like, hey, is there more that we can do to be more efficient? But when you look at the numbers, ag uses so much more than what residents do that, I mean, even if we save a lot, if we were to rip out all the grass, it probably still wouldn't fix this problem.
All right, agriculture, big issue. When we come back, Joanna Allhands introduces us to the rest of the cast of characters and the big deal that's going to be coming up in the legislature in probably just a few weeks. Stay with us.